84 men a week in the UK die of suicide, and it's such a staggering statistic that you look at it and go, something's got to change, isn't it?
We know the statistics, 3/4 of suicides are male. For us, from a man under 45, it's the greatest threat to a life. But the statistic that doesn't get spoken about very much is that 2/3 of those male suicides come from men who have had no previous mental health intervention, never been to the doctor for mental health, never had any sort of intervention around that. That's a pretty huge number. It's all about prehabilitation. We talk about treatment, but what can we do in advance? How can we change a culture so that people are more comfortable to speak and never have to get to that level? Really clear on your values. It's of vital importance, isn't it? I mean, we're happy when we're living in alignment with our values. If we're not, if we don't know what our values are, how can we live in alignment with them? It's pretty tricky. Very sadly, I lost a great friend of mine in 2020 who sadly died by suicide. You lose this person who's a brilliant person, and that was a bit what we were speaking about earlier. For him, all of this great, but he just couldn't see it, just couldn't see the stuff that was good that was around him. Something's wrong here, this shouldn't be happening. All the families are losing men too early and what seems unnecessarily. We need to do something. If we could just save, or help one other person. The moonshot idea would be to reduce that suicide rate amongst everyone, but particularly amongst men, to reduce that rate. We'll never know that, and it's an absolute moonshot idea, but if we can change it in our small corner of the world, who knows what the ripple effect might be of that.
I'm on a mission to help the world to see success differently. Through sharing the stories of our guests, I hope to inspire those that listen. This is the Different Hats podcast, produced by H2 Productions. I hope you can join us on this journey.
Everyone comes in for different reasons. So, I mean, a lot of what I do, I kind of trick people about it, because men don't want to talk. It's kind of one of those things we've spoken about before. We'll say, "Come on, men, we need to talk," and it's well and good, but and it's a great thing. I think it's great that we're trying to encourage that. But the truth is, most men are so instilled in them not to speak, not to talk, not to show any sort of vulnerability or any weakness. So I kind of bring them into that program in from a position of strength. That a lot of them come in there think they're just coming to lose a bit of weight, or they come into whatever it might be. There's some people want to change habits around their drinking. Some people want to just feel a bit better in themselves. Want to have a bit more passion for life, just feel a bit flat in that sort of grey zone a little bit. Some guys feel good, they just want to see if they can get stronger, want to know want to get out of their comfort zone a little bit. So everyone's got their different reasons, and in bringing them into that, one of the standard is gratitude list is kind of one of the things they get scored all the time. And what's really nice where we have the group is we get everyone to post it at one time, so you get everyone's. So sometimes you wake up in a day and you look at the phone come through and you see all of the guys' different gratitude lists, and it's like, what a way to start the day, because you've got to think of yours, which is great, and you can kind of take in but you just see this, and it's just positivity all the way. And so I think that's what lifts a lot of the guys straight away, just to suddenly appreciate, actually, life's pretty good. There is stresses at work, there's things going on, there's all these other things I've got, trying to make the bills, trying to pay the bills and everything else, whatever else stresses might be, but life's pretty good all around me, actually. There's a lot of good ththings to recognise and to notice.
Love that. What a brilliant way to start the day.
Yeah, it's a great feeling.
Yeah. Just like you said, not even just you to sit there and go, what am I grateful for, but just having a group of mates and seeing all there, and
absolutely.
just like you said, just because there's so much, isn't there? Like, you can go on social media and watch the news, and there's a lot of negativity around.
Oh God,
right?
Yeah, I don't watch the news anymore. I've given up.
Mate, you and me both. And I think that's it. There can be a lot of and negativity then breeds, and if you could surround yourself with that, but if you surround yourself with positivity, surround yourself with positive people, and that is a great way to kick things off.
Absolutely, and it's a skill, isn't it? It's training. I always call it mental fitness. I'm a big fan of that as opposed to mental health when talking with men about it, because it is fitness. Same as you train. If you can't get to a point, get fit and go, right, I'm fit now. And then not do anything about it anymore, because it soon won't be. And it's the same with your mental fitness. You get to a point, or you haven't got to that point, and you can train it. And all these are you're just training skills, aren't you? Training to look out for the right things. At first, everyone feels a bit, doesn't work for us. So sometimes people have to really think about their gratitude, and it'll be like the table or something. But gradually you get more, and you find yourself just noticing things to be grateful for all the time. But you have to train that. It's not something that will just be there and without you working at it. So it's training a muscle in the same way you train a physical muscle, as I see it.
I love that, because when I was looking at obviously the website and about you, and obviously when we spoke previously, I love, and you just obviously mentioned it then about mental fitness and changing that narrative, I guess, around fitness from mental health to mental fitness, and how important, I guess, that is to change that.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause it just changes people's perception, I guess, of it, right?
Absolutely. I think health, like if someone said to me, right, you need to focus on your health, you kind of think that's a long way down the line. Like, I should do something about my health, but it doesn't really inspire you until you've had a health issue, you know. And I think it's the same with mental health. I mean, the statistics we talk about, we know the statistics. 3/4 of suicides are male. For us, from a man under 45, it's the greatest threat to a life. But the statistic that doesn't get spoken about very much is that 2/3 of those male suicides come from men who have had no previous mental health intervention, never been to the doctor for mental health, never had any sort of intervention around that. That's a pretty huge number, 2/3 of that. So how do we get to them? Because they're the ones, actually, they're the people you hear the stories of. They seem fine, next day they're gone. It's kind of, where did that come from? And everything seemed to be all right. They're the people that I think we need to try and get in touch with. They're the people we need to start prehabbing it, if you like. It's all about prehabilitation. We talk about treatment, but what can we do in advance? How can we change a culture so that people are more comfortable to speak and never have to get to that level where it builds up and they eventually do what they do.
I love the actually, like you said, when you relate it, just the way you I guess the language you use and how you talk about it, like you said, first off the bat with mental fitness, but even then, like when you talk about prehab and trying to actually creating it to be a cultural shift where it's more of the norm, to not only create spaces and make it and normalise the fact that we can be vulnerable and talk about it, but I guess as well, as we go to the gym and work out and lift weights and stuff, actually practicing different things on a daily basis. I guess, like meditate. Do you meditate? Do you talk about that a lot? Yeah,
we do bits. It's all different forms of mindfulness. Some people think it's a bit woo-woo, but once you do it, it's a great thing to do. And some people don't like it. But you have to try all these different things and find what works for you. Like some people don't like running; they prefer being on a bike. We find the thing that works for you. But there's always ways to train your mind and train your psychology, without doubt.
And I guess that's a lot of what you do, and a lot of what your message is about is trying to treat your mental fitness the same as you are treating your physical fitness, so that we are, and it's not just something you go, I'll do that once a month or do it like that, but actually on a more of a daily basis. I mean, what other things do you talk about to, I guess, take care of your mental fitness on a daily basis? Yeah,
I mean, we bring cold showers, and so on a Saturday we always have a gym and we jump in the sea afterwards. It's kind of standard. A lot of them don't like to have a go through the window, but eventually you grow to love it after a while. But we kind of build that up. A lot of the sort of Wim Hof methodology and stuff in terms of just building up your cold showers and that sort of stuff as well. We also work through a number of coaching models. So every week we have a coaching model, and where we have the campfire chats, it's really just that opportunity for people to reflect. And sometimes they may do things and not even know why they're doing it at the time. They just do it, and some of the guys do it just to get their points. But I don't mind that, because they've still done it and it comes through. And then when we have a chat about it, sometimes we can then start to elaborate and get people to speak about it. And they think, actually, they become aware of what things they've done in the past to find success, what things make them happy, where their values are. I mean, getting really, really clear on your values, it's of vital importance, isn't it? I mean, we're happy when we're living in alignment with our values. If we don't know what our values are, how can we live in alignment with them? It's pretty tricky.
Okay, I'm just going to say something about one of our sponsors, Riverval. The world of cars, vans and minibuses is often a pain point for many of us. The hassle of finding the right vehicle, let alone looking after it, are all more things to add to our lists as busy people. Riverval's mission is to make motoring manageable, and that's why they provide leasing, purchasing, servicing and vehicle management. So whether you have one family car or a fleet of vans for your business, Riverval are your trusted vehicle supplier. Visit www.riverval.co.uk. Okay, let's jump back to the podcast. Yeah, that's really interesting. I've spoke about this quite a lot recently on here, and I find it really fascinating because you're right. Like, there's so much of what we do, we're assigned to a role we've got. So, well, I'm a father, or I'm a businessman, or whatever those things are. Where that's how we identify ourselves. When actually, what happens if that's where I hang myself? What happens to me when I'm not that person?
Yeah.
So I really find this side of it really fascinating about, I guess, finding out what your values are, and I guess that's part of it. Some people don't know, right?
No.
What do you sort of do to help people on that journey to find out who they really are and what they value?
Yeah, one of the first things we do, which is another really powerful thing, we get everyone, literally, it's such a simple question, come in and just say, why are you here? What's it about? And it's quite interesting because when we first started, we had one of the guys who come and go, I'm here to lose a bit of weight, and I kind of want to, just get a bit fitter. I just feel that I want to, get a bit fitter, and then finishes. Next person comes in and allows a little bit more vulnerability. That says, I feel that there's times that stress overtakes me a little bit. I want a bit more. I want to be able to work to deal with that stress, so I can be a better dad at home. I can do, be more present with my kids. I can be a better husband, wherever it might be. Next person comes in and they'll say, for me, I've had troubles with, one of our guys had troubles with PTSD in the past, and he'll be a little bit more vulnerable and a bit more. And suddenly, and I was one of the first times with him, the guy who started it then came back and said, actually, no, that's not fair. I'm going to come back and actually say why I'm here. And was much more in depth with it. And in doing that, first of all, it kind of just gets out in the open in terms of why you're there and what's important to you. But then we have week one, we do something which anyone can do. It's the DeMartini Models value assessment. So if anyone wants to do it, it's something you can easily do. Well worth doing, just a series of questions that kind of lets you know where you're putting your values at the moment, where your energy goes at the moment, where you tend to put things in. And you get an option from there. You either look at it and think, great, there's my values, or you look at it and go, I'm not really that happy with that. That's not where I'd like my values to be going at the moment. And so then we kind of have a discussion around that. So what is important to you? What things do stand out to you? Where would they like to be? And that's kind of how and then we build on week. We kind of strategically take it up another notch and get it really clear on what you want out of life, what's important to you. And that's the biggest step, to be honest. Once you know why you're doing stuff, it's much easier to do it.
So, look, anyone listening, I guess, for whether you're running a business or not, or just in life in general, right? That's the like we say about with your business, like you listen to Simon Sinek and the Start With Why, and it's such an important thing. But when you then relate that as you are, and you go actually just put that into your life cycle and where you are and why you exist, what's your purpose? Because once we've got that, everything else seems to slot into place. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I mean, for me, I've read. I don't know if you've read the book Ikigai. It's quite a small book. It's quite one of the top sellers at the moment. One of my clients actually bought it for me, and I've read it on the flight out to Stockholm. It's quite a nice, quick read. But one of the bits I always take like one thing from each book. And that one, it was just about connecting the dots. So for me, Way Out of Viking for me is literally all of my experiences, good, bad, indifferent, whatever. All of these things, kind of, it feels like I don't know. I didn't really know what my purpose was. I'm still finding out, but it's kind of getting to that thing. You suddenly find all those things connect. You're like, actually, it all sort of makes a bit of sense now. Now, if I could just put all that together, all of those experiences I've had, they're experiences only I've had, so only I can do this because, same as you've only had the experiences you've had. So finding that your individual purpose at the end of it, when you can connect all those dots, it's a bit of an aha moment. Oh, right, okay, maybe I can do something with this and do some good with it and try and make it work, and that can be my purpose moving forwards. It gives me a good sense of what I want.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it is, and it's so important. I think once we get to that point as individuals, like you said, it's enlightening. I think that's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't it?
You
just feel enlightened that you go, okay, this is, and then because once you then have our sort of try. And I'm similar to you. I guess I'm still on a journey to find a lot of things, but so much of what I'm trying to do, I believe I know who I am, what my values are, and whatever I'm doing. The podcast is called Different Hats because I do loads of different things, and it's trying to go whatever it is I'm doing. It's okay to let go of some things if they're not aligning with what my values are. I think absolutely. that's what helps get into that core of what you're trying to teach people and coach people to get to that point, right?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, for me, every decision I make. Particularly if there's one where I'm thinking, right, should I go that way? Should I go that way? I now always bring it back to my sort of key values and go, is it going to improve that one? Is it going to improve that? Is it going to? If it's not, then no. What am I doing it for? Am I doing it for ego? Am I doing it for what's the purpose of it? So, does it improve those? Yes. All right. Or let's go and do it. Let's give it a bash and don't talk yourself out of it, because it's easy to, be scared sometimes to jump out your comfort zone. Let's go and do it because it's going to help. If it's not, then sorry, good opportunity. It's a different opportunity, but it's not in line with what I want to be and who I want to be.
Yeah, I love that. Look, you shared a little bit just now about some of the statistics, and I think this, every time I hear this, I actually can't comprehend it when you go.
Blows your mind,
the biggest killer in men under 45 in the UK is suicide.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I heard it, and I just couldn't comprehend. I was like, how can that? When you talk about cancer, road accidents, things like that, and you go, no, the biggest killer under 40 in men. So I think I looked at it. So it's something like 84 men a week in the UK die of suicide, and it's such a staggering statistic that you look at it and go, something's got to change, isn't it? Like, I love the stuff that you're doing and what we just spoke about prehab and trying to prevent us getting to that stage where we can start to reduce that number. I know that obviously we've spoken a little bit offline, and maybe if you are able to sort of share your own experience, I guess I know a big change in your life, and moving into sort of behavioural coaching and the way of the Viking and this type of path. What sort of got you there, and your own experience with it? Yeah,
well, very sadly, I lost a great friend of mine in 2020, who sadly died by suicide, and it kind of hit home very, as you'd imagine, really. He's someone I'd known since I was 5 years old. We've all been good friends. And again, it's one of those cases where you look at it and it shouldn't, in terms of how things are, you look at where his life was, it was kind of, shouldn't happen. You look at it should be perfect. He's got a beautiful wife who he absolutely adored, kids, mortgage free, no financial issues, was living out in Spain, which was tricky for us at times. We couldn't get out there to see him and stuff. Obviously, as lockdown came around, which didn't help things. But you lose this person who's a brilliant person, and that was a bit what we were speaking about earlier. For him, all of this great, but he just couldn't see it. Just couldn't see the stuff the good that was around him. And it's kind of, without going too much into it, that's kind of how it was. He couldn't see all the goodness around him, and that's why it's so important that we constantly look at what we do have around us and the good things that are around us. From that kind of kick-started. I went for a walk with my friend's sister, one of his sisters, and in the days after that, just to discuss it and try and get our heads around it all. And at the end of it, she was sort of saying, it just doesn't seem right, all these sorts of things. Something's wrong here. This shouldn't be happening. All the families are losing men too early and what seems unnecessarily. And we need to do something. If we could just save, or help one other person, if we could do anything to do that, that's what we need to sort of focus on. And that kind of stuck with me. And ever since then, I've always that's been my ambition, really, just to change just one life, to help one person. And you never really know, because you can never. You can never tell, can you? You never know what the future. But that's always been a big part of everything I do. So, me and Tim, who we spoke about earlier, we started a campaign where we did a cold shower challenge. It was kind of to represent all of the. It was kind of representative of that feeling of struggle and being able to. But if you can stick with it and get through the tough times, eventually it will become easier. And there's all sorts of reasons we thought that would be quite a good challenge to start with, and it wasn't the idea, but I spoke on the first video that I did, and it was kind of going to be a bit like the ice bucket sort of challenge where you pass it on, and that was the idea, nominate people. But what happened was I spoke on it, and it's, I'm talking to friends, so it was quite emotional, and then I nominated other people, but then they kind of followed suit, and actually all sorts of men just started talking on camera, and everyone started about various things, about their things that they were going through, and that wasn't the plan, that wasn't how it was meant to go, but that's kind of how it rolled, and more people would join in, male, female, everyone join in, but more particularly a lot of the men were suddenly starting to talk and say how their struggles were and things that they were going through, and some of them people I would never have expected. Again, it's as it often is, people who seem like they have, who are completely, everything couldn't be better in life and everything else, who have had to go through certain issues as well, and it was really, really powerful, and it really hit home with me how important that was, and everyone started to support each other and rally around. They're all old school friends, and it was such a big thing. And for me, that's when I started. I'd already been doing NLP, and I've been very much into psychology and things anyway. But I started to do more studying for behaviour change and life coaching, all sorts of other things. And it's just trying to find a way to work it and make it work together, really. And I've trialled a number of different things, but eventually this is where I'm at. And although it's my long-term goal is, I think we spoke about before, is, you know, the moonshot idea would be to reduce that suicide rate amongst everyone, but particularly amongst men, to reduce that rate. We'll never know that, and it's an absolute moonshot idea. But if we can change it in our small corner of the world, who knows what the ripple effect might be of that? If we can create something that works here, who knows what that could be? And that's what it comes down to for me in the long term. It's kind of my friend's legacy, I guess, and from that, and yeah, trying to build from there, make sure it doesn't go in vain, basically.